as authentically as we can how the Buddha's teachings have transformed our minds, how we've been able to integrate them into our lives. And that we hope, without having some sort of expectation, that we hope by being able to share that, others will be inspired or be able to take the Buddha's teachings to heart. But what's so beautiful about that is sometimes when we share the Dharma, we become beneficiaries of those in which we share the Dharma with. Their incredible kindness, their sincerity, their wisdom, and their yearning to also want to be happy and not suffer. So something has really come up for me this past week that I want to share with you, because I've been working on this for a long time, is the profound truth that karma is neutral. It's not about punishment. It's not about reward. If we create the non-virtue, we are going to experience unhappiness. If we create virtue, we are going to experience some form of happiness or peace. And that as long as we are under the control of afflictions and karma, dukkha is certain. And this applies to every living being without exception. And as for me, sometimes I forget that it's not just the beings in our world that we normally or naturally, when we see their circumstances, we go, this is dukkha. They're poor, they're oppressed, they're marginalized, they're disabled, they're mentally ill. We say, that's suffering. That is inviting compassion and understanding from our side. However, I know that I struggle that every time I see someone who's wealthy, who has good looks, who has access to whatever samsaric delight is out there, I forget that dukkha is dukkha no matter what. And that if they have created, and what I've had to understand is that those in our world that have extraordinary abundance, have extraordinary beauty about them, have riches, have access to all sorts of things, that they came as a result of extraordinary virtue. It's not a given. It's like they did something extraordinarily virtuous in their previous lives, and now they are experiencing the results of that. But that karma, just because on the surface that's what we're seeing, that doesn't mean that at the same time they are also experiencing the dukkha of pain, the dukkha of change, and all pervasive conditioned dukkha. And that no matter, and this is something I've personally seen this past week, is that no matter how wealthy you are, no matter how beautiful you are, no matter how much influence you have, you are still going to puke your guts when you undergo chemotherapy because you have cancer. You are still going to have to struggle with a close one in your life who is abusive and will not stop harming you. You're still going to have your mom die, and your siblings are still going to fight about who gets what. Your son's going to go skiing and he's going to come back a paraplegic, and your son is addicted to heroin, and you finally have to turn him over to somebody who might be able to help him. Despite the prosperity, despite the wealth, karma is definite and dukkha is certain. Until we reach the path of seeing, it's dukkha and karma are so like equanimous. Doesn't care. You create the causes, you're going to experience the results. And they happen. All of this stuff, day in and day out. You've got happiness results, you've got suffering, and they're like, just toss them in the air. They're going to land all day long. And to see this so clearly, not just in our own national experience right now politically. A lot of people with wealth, due to extraordinary virtue, and at the same time ripening of some extraordinary negative karma, with minds that are not in line to the virtue they also created. So there is no amount of wealth, fame, looks, status that we can have that will protect us from our karma and protect our families, protect our friends from the ripening of non-virtue. I mean, it's just like right in my face this past week. The search for happiness and avoiding suffering may be more lush, may be more extravagant, may be more exotic. The tweaking may be may bring pleasure that lasts a lot longer and at a higher level, but what goes up must come down. And so my heart, it just is opening up to this, because I have a real struggle with the wealthy of the world. I have a lot of judgment about them. I have a lot of bias about them. I have a lot of resentment about them. And I've really wanted to use the Dharma to help me. And in this past few months, and certainly this past week, it has opened up my eyes to the power of our karma and the reality of the three kinds of dukkha. And so and to see the beautiful yearning, the beautiful willingness, the beautiful transparency. That's what I loved, is that the human heart is still there. The human heart is still accessible, and the Buddha's teachings just brings that out. It's just so extraordinary that if we just open our hearts, we can recognize what the situation is. The yearning arises to be able to find a happiness that doesn't end, and to be able to alleviate not just the suffering of our near and dear ones, but to be able to really extend that out beyond that. So my heart is just been totally opened, and that I really have in my mind when I set my bodhicitta motivation, when it says all beings without exception, to include those who we naturally want to alleviate their suffering, and perhaps those that we have maybe a little bit, we don't track it, we don't see it, is more disguised, but they too want to have happiness and not suffer, and they are also under the control of afflictions and karma. So I really want to this is a profound insight that's just been coming up the past year, and in the past week or so, it's just really hit home in a very profound way. So we want to include everybody in our bodhicitta motivation.